I'm really, really happy to be here today. I am a little bit sad that I'm passing after Pope Wade because he was so chill and so amazing. And I think that he also had a lot of content that was very relatable to everyone because, you know, talking about the future of work is sort of top of mind on everybody's, you know, sort of like, how do we go back after COVID? What's happening? Like, what's going on? And I thought that his talk was phenomenal. My talk will be a little bit different, a little bit more abstract, but I'm going to try to tie it to some like real-world examples so that it makes a lot of sense to everyone. And I'm sorry if I'm talking in English because I research in English, so if I talked in French, which I can do because I am Francophone, I would be looking for every single word, and then I would sound really silly. So I'm going to do it in English, but if you have any questions at the end and you want to ask questions in French, like please feel free. If there's anything that you'd like a little bit more information about, I'll be happy to do so. So I titled my talk today, oops, okay, so if I move away from this, you don't hear me. Okay. Okay, I'll use the mic. Hello? I'm talking about technology. This is a great start. It's a great start. There you go. Can't turn on a mic. Okay, so today I titled my talk Distributed Blackness because I, as was sort of introduced, I'm working a lot on Web3. And one of the things that I work on is, you know, sort of black cybercultures, how black people can take advantage of technology, especially online technologies, to sort of not equalize, but to get ahead of where we are right now. So it's always something that's really top of mind for me. And it's something that not many people work on. So even when you look at academia, there's not a lot of people that are working on how, you know, using sort of hashtag activism or black movements online or all of these kind of things can actually help, you know, the black community move forward. So I'm always happy to do that. I was really happy to be invited to meetUP, especially since a big part of the conference is about how to sort of encourage buying black, and this is something that I've worked on personally as well. So I have a paper that was on marketplace activism and why, you know, black dollars matter and how, you know, using new technologies like hashtags to sort of congregate around messaging can actually help, you know, the black cause move forward. So this is actually an initiative that happened in the US, and it's called My Black Receipt. It's very similar to the Buy Up that we're doing here with Origin Village, and it's the same idea as that if you can sort of measure the impact of what it is like when people consciously and intentionally decide to purchase within their community, like what does that do and how does that help us forward? So they started this in July 2020 after the brutal murder of George Floyd, and it was about from Juneteenth to July 4th, and they were able to collect around $7.4 million, right? So that just shows you the impact, and that's from 19,000 people. So we're not talking about everybody in the world. We're talking about 19,000 people decided to change their mindset a little bit and purchase from black entrepreneurs and, you know, really be conscientious about where their dollars is. And this is a huge amount of impact that we can do in the community. But when people ask me, okay, so is that necessarily, you know, enough? Like, how do we move forward? How do we do things? And community is a huge part of it, right? So being intentional and conscientious about the ways we move about the world is really, really important. But another thing that is also important, if we want to sort of change our, you know, the path of the black community in sort of the global economy, is also integrating new technologies. But when I talk about integrating new technologies, I don't talk about integrating new technologies 5 years after they come out or 10 years after they come out. I'm talking about being ahead of the curve, right? So if you are in the innovation set, that is the set of people who benefit the most from, you know, all of these sort of new movements that are coming out. And today, that's why I'm going to talk to you about a movement that I believe is actually going to have a lot of impact for the future of business. And it's really early. So it's a good time to sort of learn about it and to sort of start thinking, how can this make any difference to me or my company or how my projects or the people that I know in, the industry? And I'm going to give a lot of examples because sometimes you're going to say, well, oh yeah, this will work if I was Nike, but how does it work for my small business? And so we're going to go through that together. And I'm hoping that I do a good job to get that sort of point across. So before I start this talk, though, I have to put a disclaimer out there. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I am not telling you to run out of this, beautifully appointed room and then go buy some crypto and NFTs. This is not what I'm doing, and I do not want to be perceived or sued. So, disclaimer is right here, okay? But I'm going to talk to you today. Did this get louder all of us? Okay, sorry. I'm going to talk to you today about NFTs. So there's many, many different types of asset classes, and NFTs are probably one that people have the most trouble wrapping their heads around, right? So NFTs is non-fungible tokens. And when we talk about different assets class, like if you talk about money or gold, you're talking about something that's fungible and tangible. Fungible meaning, like, if I have $20 in my purse and you have $20 in your purse and we exchange that $20, we can go to the cash and both pay for something that costs $20. Like, both $20 are equally valid and the same. That is fungible, right? One can be exchanged for another. Then you can have something that is non-fungible and tangible. So, if I have a, Porsche Carrera, let's say, I don't, but let's say I did. I have a Porsche Carrera, you have a Porsche Carrera, somehow our keys get mixed up in the, tussle, and I take your car home, you're not gonna like me, right? Because although they're pretty much seemingly the same cars, they have different serial numbers, they have different, so you would not like that, and I would not like. I don't know how you treat your brakes. Did you take it in for maintenance? I don't know. So even though it's the same in general, it is not the same, in the specifics of it. So it is not fungible. We cannot exchange. Like even if we lived on the same street, had the same model house, we wouldn't want to do a house exchange. So that is a non-fungible, tangible asset. Then we have fungible, intangible assets, and that's like cryptocurrencies. Everyone here has probably heard of Bitcoin? Yeah. So if I buy Bitcoin and you buy Bitcoin, it's the same as the $20, right? It doesn't matter what my Bitcoin is. It just matters that I have Bitcoin and how much of it I have, right? And seeing that Bitcoin is very variable, how much of it is very important at this point, but it's one of those things where there's no individual nature to the Bitcoin. It is just a fungible, intangible asset. And then we talk about non-fungible, intangible assets, and those are NFTs. So if you're looking at, I want to buy a painting by a Haitian painter, a ski, and he wants to sell me this painting in a digital format. If I buy it on the blockchain, I have a certificate that I have bought this from him. So even if someone sees it online and clicks copyright, right, and they save it, and they have it in their computer, they can have, the visual of the painting. But I'm only person who has the actual authentic digital copy of that painting. You can say, well, if it could be, replicated, what's the value and why is it important? It's because after, what we can do with non-fungible tokens, when we can sorry about this, when we can prove the ownership, right, is that we start giving them different types of utility. And when we start giving them utility, that's when it becomes important. You can have, like, if you like that painting, you can put it as like, you know, the backsplash on your computer, and that's fine. But if I want to, and if I have the commercial rights to it, maybe I can, you know, put it on a t-shirt and make money off of that, or something like that, and you don't have that right. I could sue you for doing it. Any artist could sue you for doing it. So we're talking about further types of utility that could be tied to something that is very abstract. So I'm sorry if I've lost some of you. And I feel like I have, so I'm gonna go back to examples like right now. And so this is something that's funny. I always start with sort of like a beginning, right? So this is Kanye West. And people kept asking him, are you going to make an NFT? Are you going to make an NFT? And he said, my focus is on building real products in the real world, real food, real clothes, real shelter. Don't ask me to do, I'm not going to swear, NFT, okay? And so one of the reasons why I think it's important to talk about it in these types of community settings is that a lot of you know, marginalized communities tend to have a lot of resistance to change, a lot of resistance to embracing new technologies that could be really transformative. So it's like, we see it here, right? This is like the you know, like planting yourself in the, like, your feet in the mud and going, no, I'm not gonna do this. And it's a way of being, and that's okay, but then you have to look at who is not doing that, right? So if you look at, you know, when we talk about NFTs, Web3, the metaverse, we talk about, you know, Facebook, that I really need to take a sip of water because my lips are sticking. It's not good. You look at Facebook that rebranded into Meta, you know, Microsoft's going to the metaverse, Walmart, you know, Gucci, everyone's going, right? You have Adidas that did a first drop with Into the Metaverse, so you could buy this character for, I think it was about $800. And then if you bought that character, you had the right to claim like physical collectibles, so like a tracksuit, a beanie, and something else. And then you have another collectible, and they're going to be doing concerts. And then if you have that NFT, you can access those concerts. You have, you know, this is actually right now, you have 20,000 owners of the NFTs, and the floor price is about 1.15 Ethereum, so about $3,000 or $4,000. So the people who bought it at about $850, if they turn around and they sell it, they make, you know, a hefty profit. You have Nike that has bought Artifact and are making, you know, digital virtual shoes. And you may be like, what's the point of this? But these people are thinking further, right? They're not thinking, okay, well, this is a virtual shoe. At some point, like Adidas, you're probably going to be able to claim something that's going to be very collector, very niche. We know, like, sneaker culture is intense, right? People will, like, line up for hours to get stuff. And it's also going to be able to, like, they're going to be able to target their consumers in a very narrow fashion. So if you own this NFT, you're going to be able to go to special events. You're going to be able to, you know, access some pre-sales. Like, it's a way to sort of build around a non-fungible asset. Then we see here, like, oh, we saw shoes, and we also see streetwear, which is sort of a non-brainer to go into NFTs, but we see beer. So Stella Artois, you know, did an association with Zen, which is a company that does crypto racing with horses. So you can actually win real money with your horses. I actually bought a horse for my mom a while ago, and every time she asks me, she's like, how's my horse doing? I'm sorry, Mom. And then, like, when we talk about other things, right? So a lot of the NFTs, depending on the IP and the licensing rights that you get when you buy them, you're able to then use that. So when I said about Usky and the painting, let's say he gives you commercial rights, you can put it on a t-shirt, and then you can sell that, and that's your money. So these people, there's a big property called the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and if you own a Bored Ape, you're able to commercialize it. And you have commercial licensing rights. So people in LA started a restaurant called Bored and Hungry, and they used their Bored Apes as, sort of a vehicle. And these are not huge entrepreneurs, but they are entrepreneurs in the sort of hospitality and food. But who else is doing it? Snoop Dogg. So Snoop Dogg is, opening a sweet shop, and it's called Captain Bombay's Sweet Shop or something. And he's also using the IP that he has from owning a Bored Ape. So we see like there's many different types of use cases. Where am I? Okay, different types of use cases. And as we move forward, right, this is starting to get integrated into more and more things. So if you have Twitter, if you pay for Twitter Blue, you can actually verify that the profile picture that you have is authentic. So it gives you like a hexagon. And then if you have an hexagon, it means that, your NFT is real. So they do a connect with your wallet to find out if it's real. This is also coming to Instagram, it's coming to Facebook. So we're gonna see it more and more as a meta as to how people identify on the internet. And like, why would we do that? Because there's been so much, right, around theft of intellectual property, theft of, like you could take any picture and pretend to be someone. Like I could take a picture, and we've seen a lot of that with catfishing, right? People would go and download a picture of like a famous model, and then they'd start an account and pretend to be that famous model or something and catfish people. But this is sort of going to put a stop to, like, if I say I have a Bored Ape, well, if I want to say, if I want to say that on Instagram, I'm going to have to connect my wallet and prove that I do. So again, I'm saying that we're early. We're talking about a market that is exponentially and very quickly becoming important. So here we see global trading volume of 16.94 billion in January and 54.58 in April, so over 200% in 4 months, right? So we're really at the beginning, and it's important to sort of get your head around what this could mean for you, what this could mean for your business, and how you could maybe capitalize. So the next one is like, are you ready for Web3? Do you know about Web3? No. Okay, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to just give you a little bit of, a little bit of an idea of what's coming down the pipeline. So when we talk about Web3, some people are like, okay, what is Web3 at all, right? So Web 1 is the idea that it was a syntactic web. So I say that, and I know you're looking at it like, what? It's like a read-only web. So it's where you can have information and you can access information because information is searchable, but you cannot upload information yourself. So you can take from it, but you can't, participate to it. Then you have Web 2, which is participatory. So this is a read-write internet phase. And that's where you have social media. So we call it like, it's a social phase of the internet where people upload their own, materials and, your pictures, your thoughts, your blogs, and other people can access them. So you can read and write. And now we have Web 3, where you don't have to do this on centralized platforms like Instagram or Facebook. It's decentralized, and you can own your content. So it's a little bit different. We're talking about decentralization. There's still a lot of issues around this, because if I told you today to go make an NFT, you'd look at me and go, how? Like, what? So there's still platforms, so there's still some level of centralization. And I use this because I've had many people who've had this issue before. You're on Instagram. You build a presence on Instagram. You have, 10,000 followers that have been following your every move for 4 years. You've given your heart and soul to building this, followership and everything. And one day, they decide that you've broken their terms of service, and they delete your account. This has happened to a lot of creators. I'm going to go one forward. This has happened to a lot of Black creators. because we're more under fire and people report our content 5 to 1 more as offensive or bullying or something, other content. So when you look at it this way, you're like, oh, well then maybe putting all of my eggs in a basket of Instagram is not the best idea. So what they're doing with the idea of Web3 is you can tokenize your audience. So let's say that you lose your Instagram account. Well, okay, sorry, too bad, so sad, Instagram. I'm going to start with my people back on, TikTok, or so you're not going to have to develop the audience for each and every platform you go to. And that's really big, especially for Black creators that are often get the wrong end of the stick when it comes to this kind of stuff. So Web3 is this decentralized platform, and the one word that I really want you to keep in mind when I talk about Web3 is the idea of ownership. Like owning your things, like owning your art, owning if you do music, owning your masters. So I know there was an NPO started in the US called Owning Your Masters, because most rap stars and most hip hop stars, they don't own the rights to their own music, right? So we're talking about a different type of creator economy where ownership is, at the heart of how people can then bring value forward for themselves and for the people who believe in them. Why is this important? Well, here we're looking at, let's say you're on Spotify, and this is the source, this is from Andreessen Horowitz, and this is 2022, so this is 2021 stats. On Spotify, because, you get fractions of pennies per stream and everything, you need a lot of people to love into your music to get any money, right? So on Spotify, for 11 million artists, the average per year that the artists get is $600, $636. On YouTube, there's 37 million channels. The average per channel per year is $2.47. On Facebook, 10 cents. The average per user, let's say. So that means that if you're huge, you do make money. But if you're not huge, you don't. But NFTs, we're talking right now 3.9 billion, which is not that far, especially considering we're 1 year in, really. And for 2,400 creators, we're talking 174,000 average per creator. And so I was talking to some people in the music industry that were telling me that they get as much selling out 500 NFTs of a song than they would if they had 4 million streams, right? So if you think about it, it's a lot easier to hit 500 than it is to hit 4 million. So the disparities between the small up-and-coming artists and the Madonnas of the world, it's a big difference. And here, another thing that we say is, what is the take rate from these platforms? Okay, how much do they actually take from you as a creator, right? So if you go on a decentralized platform like OpenSea, they take 2.5%. If you use the App Store, if you create an app and you put it out on the App Store, 30%. If you put something on you, 45%. And then, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you're just creating content for them, right? This content is just, you're not getting paid for this. What you get paid for is if then you bring, advertisers and other people. You're not getting paid by them to do this. So this is a very different sort of meta. And what I'm going to tell you in my last few minutes is the type of opportunity. So I told you, if I want you to retain one thing from this talk is Web3, we're talking about ownership. We're talking about people being more autonomous and more independent. And what this means is you have this nexus of things where you can protect, right? So when you put something out and you mint something, somebody can't come to 2 days later and say, oh, I made this song, because it's on the blockchain. People can see who made it, right? And that's without passing through complicated trademark and all these kind of stuff. And then connect. You can connect with your community. You can connect with your followers. Create, monetize. And I'm going to use examples to prove these. But some examples from the real world, right? Monetize your community. Zen Academy and the 333 Club. Zeneca is a person who started out and he would freely give advice on Twitter about, the NFT space. He would do, sheets compiling like statistics for the day, and he grew to have a big following, about, 50 to 60,000. And then he did a Discord, we were talking with someone, we have a friend in common who did this, who started a Mighty Networks. He started a Discord, and then he said, if you want my knowledge, you're gonna pay. So then he token gated it. So if you buy the NFT, you get to be in his Discord. And the first NFT was about, $400, but he also has a private club, and to get there, it was about $12,000. So let's say, okay? Then you can tokenize your time. I know someone, and I was talking to her yesterday. She's a consultant. She's a consultant in Web3. And what she did is she made tokens, and if you go and you buy this NFT, you're allowed to have 10 hours of her time, right, as a consultant. Or if you want to hire her to come and do a speech, you buy the token, and she'll come to your event. Leverage your tickets. So let's say you're an entrepreneur, and you're selling tickets to a concert or an event like this. Right? You want people to come back next year because this is a dope conference. You want the next meetup to be as, bolsterous and amazing, with full of people that want to learn about how technology is going to help them with their business. Well, in this way, even the ticket is a vehicle. So these are tickets to VCon. They're still worth about $1,000, just the ticket, even after the event. Why? Because the ticket is going to give you a right to have some ongoing training. It's also going to give you discounts for the next year. It's also going to give you other types of airdrop, so you can sort of tie into your community. And if you're an artist, let's say I'm trying to think of artist names, but of course on the spot I can't. But I'm a famous, I'm Doja Cat, let's say. I don't know why I thought that. But I'm definitely not Doja Cat. But okay. And so people who bought tickets to my concert, then they get first dibs on my next concert the next time I'm in their town, right? Just because they hold that token. So that's really cool. And then innovate new ways to demonstrate your skills. So Black Dave is a rapper, and what he did is if you bought this token, you were allowed to call him in for a feature or to ask him to, create a verse for you. So that was one way that he was showing his skill. And then crowdfund your ideas. So Caladita is a film, and what they did is they used tokens, like NFTs, to crowdfund the film so that they had no debt, right? And they don't own anything. They don't owe anything to anyone at the end. So just some, oops. So this is actually the token. It doesn't need to be anything special. This is Zen Academy Token. Basically, this NFT is your lifetime membership to XYZ. Boom. And then he talks a little bit about that. Next one. This is how she's selling her, let's get to the, business, or this is zoomed in and speak on it, her speaker series. This is the VCon tickets. We are post VCon, and they're still 0.23, which is probably around $600. This is the Black Dave Verse token. So if you buy this, this is a single-use token that allows you to claim a feature from Black Dave at any time, blah, 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 blah. And this is the film, right? The first European movie ever funded through NFTs. And this is the rewards tier. So if you, wanted to really pay into this, you got those sort of utilities and perks, and you paid this amount of money. So I'm going to finish soon because I have I get these angry little, 2 minutes, okay. So how to get started with this. The first thing I'm going to tell you is do your own research. There is no easy way to get started in NFTs. You need to find, the right type of resources. You need to actually get your feet wet. You need to go on Twitter, follow some people. You need to read up on cryptocurrency. You need to read up on what's happening. What's an ETH NFT versus a Solana NFT? And then you also have to think how is this going to help my business? Because if it doesn't, don't. Right? You don't need to do things just to do things. But if you can find innovative ways to integrate this kind of thing into your business, and I can tell you that most will find it, right? this is the time to actually be active on these networks. And if you want further, then do your own research. I will be able to answer any questions in English or French right after in my minute that's going on. And then, so I'm going to end on this, right? So at the beginning of this presentation, I showed you Kanye West that's like, don't ask me about NFTs, I'm not going to be doing NFTs, not right now, blah, 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 right? And then 3 months later, right? So it is a privilege of being at this point in time where you can be early. And it's really important for the community that we sort of wrap our head around this and find out how to leverage and take advantage of it. Because Web3 is a space where you can have amplified opportunities, but you can also amplify disparities. Because if everyone that's building in this new sort of frontier is like white and, there's not going to be that much space for us. So we need to create our own spaces, and I'm happy to have been here to talk about this. I hope it wasn't too abstract. Thank you. That's what I'm here for. Okay.
I couldn't stop writing. I have so many questions, and I'm sure the audience has a lot of questions. Okay. So I want to start with, obviously, you're not here to talk about just NFTs, but it came up, and I have a question about it. So I recently heard Annette Barron, who's the CEO of Stashwall, is tech startup. She's also the founder of Mike's Hard Lemonade. This big established CEO woman, hat off to her. And she was talking over the past week about NFTs and how they have not been great for her and how she lost money and it hasn't been fantastic. And so there's a lot of people who are skeptical about NFTs, and yet you seemed as though you were really enthused or perhaps energetic or positive when it comes to it. So really, where does that come from, and what should we understand about it?
Okay, disclaimer. I have lost a lot of money on NFTs too. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, right? It is a dangerous space. For me, it's about the possibilities that you can do, right? So if you're looking to create NFTs to flip for money, that is a very dangerous space, and it's very speculative, and it's very easy to get what we call, we say wrecked, right? It's very easy to get wrecked. But if you're using it to tie up your community, to do things with, I know some artists that they already have collectors. And by doing NFTs around even physical paintings that they do, it gives them this extra level of sort of connection with the people that they're already selling to.
Should companies today be conscious or perhaps get into NFTs today, as an enterprise? Is it a must?
It is not a must.
Okay.
It is pensez-y bien. It is also, it depends on what you're doing and what you want to do as a company, but it's not a must. If you're in anything that's technical or digital, then I would say that it's probably more on the must side than not the must. If you're Mike's Hard Lemonade, then it's something that can maybe add value because people will perceive your brand as more avant-garde or more forward-thinking if you do get in early. But it is not a must. It is something that takes some time. And so I'm a marketing strategist by nature. And always what I tell people is when you're going to do something, make sure that it is aligned with your long-term strategy, right? It's not just something you're doing out of some random flight of fancy. So definitely.
I love it. Questions from the audience before we keep going. Oh, we have one already. She's like, me!
Okay, so I'm trying to make it simple in my head, but it doesn't seem to be. So I understand social media. I want to be on social media. I have Facebook, Instagram. I have all of them. I can create something on social media. What I don't understand is today I want to do NFT, what platform, where do I go? What's the Instagram of NFT?
Oh, yes. Start from the beginning. And there might even be one person in here who's like, je comprends même pas. Explain to me what an NFT is. Is it just art? What are we selling? Where do we sell it? Where can I buy it? Where can all of that?
Okay, so an NFT is not necessarily just art. A lot of the NFTs, like one of the ones that I showed, which was a membership pass, was just a letter, right? So he just basically tokenized a letter. So what an NFT really is like the proof of ownership of something through a transaction on a blockchain. So you have sort of a line in a ledger that anybody can verify that proves that you own something.
And that I'm the only owner of it?
That you are the only owner of
So
it.
this photo per se,
Yes.
I have it. It's on my laptop. I own it. No. It's on Billy's laptop. But you know what I mean. And so now what?
Okay, so it's not the photo. You could
Okay.
lose the photo. The photo doesn't matter.
Got it.
What you need is the token. So the token is like the, sort of the, it's a set of numbers. Because when we're talking about blockchain, we're talking about
comprends pas.
math.
Je comprends pas.
Okay.
It's a token. What do you mean by the token?
Okay. So we're talking about numbers,
Yes.
right? So there's string of numbers
Yeah.
that if you were to do an operation through a network, would verify your ownership.
Got it. Okay. Now it makes a little bit more sense. Est-ce que tu comprends? Now explain the platform. What do we do
Okay.
now that we own it? We have, the token. What's next?
So if you own it and you have the token, it depends on what the people who set up the token did. So right now, like I'm going to New York next week to go to some events, and in order to access some events, I needed to connect my wallet, prove that I had a token to get the ticket. So there's like a system called token proof, and that, that just goes and checks that you have this token in your wallet, and then issues your tickets. Okay. But then the same thing, if I get to the venue on the day of, and I show my QR, because it's a ever-moving QR, and it's not in my wallet anymore, I'll be denied entry.
Okay, and how am I making money off of this thing?
There's many ways. So let's say you're an artist. I have a so when I started getting into NFTs, one of the things that was like top of mind for me is this going to be good for Black artists? Is this going to help people that traditionally have been gate-kept out of, museums and galleries? So I started interviewing Black artists, a few of them, even one from Montreal, like Lana, and this other artist called Corey. Corey told me that a few years back, he was basically, homeless. So not homeless in the fact that he was like living on the street, but he did not have like a fixed domicile, and he was doing art, right? So he was selling his paintings on the street, and he would sell $50, $100, $200 or whatever. But once that money came into his hand, the physical money and the physical painting left, he never heard about that painting again, right? But now he got into NFTs because somebody introduced him in November 2020. And what happens is that because of the smart contract nature, he gets to keep a royalty fee on the paintings as they sell forward.
Okay.
So let's say he starts and he sells a painting at $500. Okay, he gets the $500. But let's say then he becomes... Yeah, but then he becomes famous. So he's very famous now, and his paintings sell for about 10 to 20 ETH. So when somebody sells it, so even the painting he sold $500, if you then sell it $5,000, he gets 10%. So then he gets $500, and that's in perpetuity. So as his star grows, so does like his money. So it's not like the starving artist at the end, because as you develop, it develops with you. So you get that money, and in perpetuity, you're the owner.
Okay, that makes more sense. That makes sense. Vous pouvez demander vos questions en français aussi.
Ah oui, absolument. Je parle français, c'est juste que je pense que j'aurais massacré certains termes.
Bonjour, merci d'abord pour votre présentation, elle était grandiose. Je pense que je suis celui qui est venu pour vous aujourd'hui. C'était tellement bien. J'ai deux questions. En tant que stratégiste marketing, avec un web décentralisé, comment, selon vous, on peut faire pour amener de la puissance à la communauté? Parce que quelque part, C'est clair que pour l'artiste, c'est très bien. Premièrement, il contrôle ses revenus, comme vous l'avez dit, avec les 10%, mais ça devient plus difficile à avoir un pouvoir d'ensemble, puisque c'est décentralisé, donc je voudrais votre opinion. Et le deuxième côté, c'est les tokens non-fungible et tangible, parce que la peinture, c'était ça. Est-ce qu'il y a des initiatives qui sont en cours? Parce que pour moi, je pense que c'est la même stratégie qu'on peut appliquer à un NFT pour ça. Et je pense que même le concept de NFT, malheureusement, la mode, c'est de parler que de médias, mais un terrain, c'est un NFT. Un contrat, c'est un NFT. Même des fruits que vous vendez, c'est un NFT. Donc le concept peut être beaucoup plus large, mais je voudrais votre avis là-dessus. Comment tirer profit de tout cela? Et comment... parce que réellement, ça permettrait, par exemple, d'avoir une traçabilité. Si nous, on veut savoir comment on consomme, de ce côté-là, on peut savoir que la pomme qui a été produite à tel endroit, c'est Williamson qui l'a mangée hier, ou c'est quelqu'un d'autre qui l'a mangé. Ça peut nous aider en tant que communauté. Mais ça va à l'encontre de ce côté décentralisé. Donc, selon vous, vu que vous maîtrisez le domaine, quelles seraient vos idées sur ces points? Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, c'était des très, très bonnes questions. Quand je pense à la nature décentralisée de la chose, je pense plus au fait qu'il n'y a pas besoin d'avoir des intermédiaires. Ça ne veut pas dire qu'on ne peut pas se rassembler en tant que communauté pour avoir des pouvoirs d'achat. Alors, il y a beaucoup de groupes d'acheteurs qui font ça maintenant. Ils font comme qu'est-ce qu'ils appellent un DAO. C'est un Decentralized Autonomous Organization où tu as des tokens. Puis, dépendant de combien de tokens, disons qu'il y en a 100 parts, moi j'ai 25, toi tu en as 13, blablabla, nos votes vont compter de cette manière-là. Alors j'ai vu beaucoup, il y a plusieurs comme communauté noire, il y a un African NFT Art DAO, il y a Her Story DAO qui est faite pour des femmes noires, j'ai vu aussi, il y a Black NFT Art qui a commencé un token qui s'appelle le Rise Token. Puis avec ça, parce qu'il y a des façons même si c'est décentralisé, ce que ça veut dire, c'est que personne ne va pouvoir dire « Oh, j'aime pas le contenu que tu places sur LinkedIn, bon ben, tu peux plus poster. » C'est juste que il faut être plus intentionnel quand on cherche à se rassembler. Puis, pour nous, je pense que c'est une grosse opportunité à cause de la transparence qui vient avec la décentralisation. Parce que souvent, qu'est-ce qui arrive, c'est que les gens ils disent « Ah non, mais ça, c'était pas fait par un créateur noir. Non, mais les dates, c'est vague. » Non, c'est pas vague. It's on the chain. On peut le voir. C'est très clair. Alors, il y a plus de recours quand on va parler de OK, qui c'était l'innovation, à qui a commencé ça. Puis ça, je trouve que ça va être vraiment utile, surtout qu'on sait que la communauté noire, on est les trendsetters, on crée de la valeur, mais incroyablement. Mais le problème, c'est que toutes les instances, les production houses, les publishers, les choses, on n'est pas propriétaire de ça. Alors, on donne énormément de valeur, on retire très peu. Alors, moi, c'est là que je vois. Puis c'est pour ça, tout à l'heure, tu me demandais, OK, oui, mais je connais des gens, ils ont perdu de l'argent. Oui, this is a bear market, and nobody's making money right now. Mais, moi, je vois ça en termes de IP. I see in terms of possibilities, like what this can mean for our people moving forward, like how we can take power back into our hands and not give, 80% to a publishing house. And that's what's interesting to me about this.
So, ça répond à votre question? C'est beau? Okay. So, what are the markets in which Afro-descendant enterprises need to be a little bit more competitive then?
So, definitely, Afro-descendant enterprises just need to show up. Because, first, it's not even about being more competitive. There's not many. Right. So that is the first step is to, get to know the environment and show up. And the second step is to, even maybe build platforms. So right now, what's happening is OpenSea is the main platform. Then you have LooksRare, you have Gem, you have X2Y2. But all of these platforms are, white-owned and out of the US or out of Europe, one out of Asia. But there is no black-owned platform. So we don't have a marketplace for it. And even the music platforms that are being built right now, like SoundXYZ, they are using black artists to propel them, but they're not black-owned.
We heard that yesterday with Ahmed Ismail. He was talking about that. Do you find that you can be competitive if you're not really sure about what it is that you're selling? You know, you'll see a lot of markets, a lot of enterprises, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this, a little bit of everything, because really they're just trying to be successful in one thing, but they're not sure what that is. So can you be competitive, and can you be successful with that sort of mentality of dipping into everything?
I'm going to take a second. So as a strategist, I usually caution against that, right? Because, like, you know, jack of all trades, master of none is usually not the best approach. And usually, even if you think you're doing everything, sometimes it's a question of framing. Like, maybe, you know, you're selling, like, you know, hair products and, you know, extensions and this and beauty creams and like this. Well, then you could, like, rebrand as, like, you know, you're doing things for like the home and well-being, or like you could always your wellness and stuff like that. You can always sort of, like, you have to tighten up in what, because if you don't understand what you're doing, it's really hard for other people to. Yeah. And then it's really, so can you be really successful? For sure. I mean, there's some people, if you do everything, right, there's like the spray and pray mentality where if you do everything, something's going to work out. But when people have less resources, it's a lot harder to get that one right.
That was actually going to be my next question. How do you get more resources? There are a lot of companies here who are struggling because they don't have the resources and the power and the employees that they need. And so what do you need to do to build that team to be as successful as you can be?
So again, passing after Pap Wade, not great in this respect. But I think that it's really hard, and you need to stay in the confines of what is possible. Because, like, when you overextend, it's not good for your employees, and it's not good for you, and you're not able to do things as well. And it's the same thing when you're thinking of Web3. Like, you don't need to start and make like a 10,000 collection. You don't need to think like, I'm gonna go, you know, and be a competitor to Bored Ape Yacht Club. What you need to think is, how does this strategically fit into what I want to do? And how can I do it in a way that's manageable for me and my employees and my company? So if your budget is X, like, just stay within your budget and then find ways to leverage that so that that token then accrues in value and that more people want in. So I say maybe start smaller, but this is still thinking big, because just being in that space is thinking big.
I saw Web3 show up a couple of times on the screen.
Yes.
And while you're talking, I'm Googling, I'm doing my research, and I'm trying to figure out, for a lot of people, technology is really intimidating. And it's not just for our grandparents and our parents who are like, je comprends pas, c'est quoi ce tic-tac, je comprends pas, you know? And it's intimidating for a lot of people, even our younger generation. Some people, you know, it's simple stuff, yes and no, enter and shift on the computer, that is what they understand. And so can we today, 2022 and moving forward, have a business and maybe not use technology as a tool? And I don't mean at all not have computers, but is it possible? No.
I wasn't going to say that.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So it is possible. There's a lot of businesses where if you're really, you know, focused on like person-to-person contact, local person-to-person contact, and you're doing things that you don't see necessarily the point. And even that's what, like, as a strategist, people tell me, I want to be on LinkedIn, I want to be on Twitter and Facebook, and this is like, do you? Like, do you need that? Because that's a lot of effort and a lot of expenditure and a lot of, like, manpower and man hours. And if your customers aren't there, what's the point? Like, if you're not thinking of scaling outside of, like, your neighborhood, what's the point? So it's like, if you're selling food and it's perishable and it's really something that needs to be in the moment, and no, you have to use the tools that are, you know, aligned with what you want to do. So for me, like, not all businesses need to do this. As a community, I would like to see us move towards that, but I would never want people to feel like they absolutely need to move in that direction if it is not comfortable for them and if it makes no sense for their business.
So, Myriam, we're almost out of time, and I wanted to ask you, when I was introducing you, so many things that you're working on. I want to know what's in the future for you. What's moving forward with Myriam?
So what's in the future for me? So I'm a professor of marketing, and I'm really happy to be. So I'm like the first black female to graduate from my degree with a PhD in marketing from my university in the history of that, yeah. And so what I really want is, I never had a black professor growing up. I want to be that black professor, and I want to encourage more people to come up in that pipeline as well and, want to do this and look at these issues, because if we don't have black researchers, then people don't do research on black things. And I'll end with this little tiny anecdote. I was at a colloque, right? And it was on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there was a very well-meaning PhD student who was white who said she'd run experiments, and during the experiments, she had, measured for white and black reactions based on a service encounter where a black person was being mistreated. The black person goes to the bank and is being treated rudely by, the teller. And so then she measured people's reaction, like white people's reaction and black people's reaction to this, like how, people would react to seeing this kind of thing happen. And then she was talking in this colloque, and she was saying, and it was really shocking, the statistics that we received, because at the end, the white people were so much more upset at the black people being mistreated than the black people were. And I don't want to publish something saying that white people care more about black issues than white people. And there was only 2 black people in the room, me and this other lady. And we looked at each other across the table, and we're like, are you going to take it? Am I going to take it? And so I took it, right? And then I told her, and I'm like, here's what you don't understand. This happens to us every day, right? Every day you go into a service encounter and somebody is rude to you because of the color of your skin. I am trying to buy a house, and I had agents basically not show up to appointments because they don't think that, maybe I have the money to do so. So we're not this is not surprising to us. We're used to it. So when we see that, and it was probably a mild encounter, right? And we're like, oh. But the white person who sees that and who's never lived through that, it's like, oh my God, how can that be? This is horrible. So I really want to be a voice, but I don't want to be a sole voice. So I want to bring up other people in the pipeline and mentor others to, do research on these issues too.
Myriam Brouard. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.